So last week I did a video that got a ton of views about the future of cinema cameras and what were the three big forces that were shaping new camera releases. Well, this week I thought I would follow up by saying what filmmakers actually want in new cameras. And it's not necessarily dynamic range, resolution, and modularity. I'm going to go over the 10 top requests that actually working filmmakers want in the new generations of cameras. I'm going to go from the easiest to implement, the technology that already exists that should be in cameras, all the way up to the slightly blue sky cutting edge technology that I think will eventually make its way into cameras if camera manufacturers are doing the right thing. So the first thing I would say is 32-bit audio. This already exists. It's already in a ton of microphones and recorders. Basically what it does is just record audio with 10 decimal points, meaning it's impossible to peak the audio out or to have the level so low that the audio is crushed. You can adjust audio in post no matter what level it was recorded in. This should absolutely be standard on every camera. The technology exists. I don't know whether it's that they don't want to pay for the licenses or the technology. The technical sync units that do it are only a couple $100. This should absolutely be in Canon C500. The next thing is power on the camera. People put a lot of accessories on cameras like monitors, which we'll get to, follow focus, remote video, which we'll get to. And not only do you need to connect them to the signal of the camera, the HDMI or SDI, but you need to power them. And the camera already has power. It should have a power output on the camera rather than adding all these DTAP boxes. There should be a couple at the back, there should be a couple at the front. Then you can just have one battery that powers the camera and all the external devices, and you don't need to run cables everywhere. The next thing is codecs. Yes, XFAVC on the Canon Cinema system is a huge improvement to the MP4, but you still can't look at it in the browser. You need to load up Resolve to actually look at what you've shot. You can't go look on the card or look on the Finder and actually see what it is. They're all, I wish either the OS X and Windows would support previewing these natively, much like ProRes 422 does. Number 4, the inbuilt screen on most cinema cameras is pretty lousy. You can't see it in bright sunlight. It's usually only barely 1080 resolution. You're seeing all of these third-party screens that are 5 inches big that are 1 and 2 and 3,000 nits, which is plenty bright to see even in direct sunlight on a bright day. It is really hard to judge critical focus and judge the quality of the image on a small little 3-inch screen, which means you have to add an extra screen, which means you need to run cables to it, you need to run image to it, you need to run power to it. For a couple $100 more, I would happily pay for a 5-inch native Canon screen that just connected with the inbuilt cable and powered itself. I would love to see cameras with inbuilt usable remote video. Teradek has gone up to 4K now, which I think is total overkill. 1080 is fine, but you can get 1080 units now, again, for a couple $100. I think there's a lot of potential in the web-based ones. The 𝙁𝙄𝙇𝙈 has a great system which only has like 6 milliseconds of delay, so it's still quick enough to pull focus on. The units now for remote video are really, really small. The technology has come a long way. Why can't we have these in the camera and just have another unit that picks it up? I'll settle for internal remote video that actually works. The Canon C200 had something like this that went to web. It was like 3 seconds delayed. It was like 1 frame a second. It was almost useless. But the technology is there and it has come a long way in 5 years. I'd like to see that in newer cameras. Timecode is a big issue. It would be great, and I think it would be very feasible for cameras to be able to jam timecode to one another. You should be able to connect 2 cameras together with USB-C and the timecode sync and stay in sync for at least 12 hours. Again, Technical Sync has a solution for this. There are these tiny little boxes that you then work with on Bluetooth and synchronize, but you could easily do it inside the camera and just connect 2 or 3 or 4 cameras or the camera to the audio recorder and jam timecode that way so everyone's on the same page and all the clips will match up in post. Apple has these great AirTags now where you put them on a case or something and then you can see where that case is anywhere in the world. I would love to have that for my camera. I would love it built into the camera so that you can't take it out of the case, that's just internal. And it would mean that cameras will almost be unstealable because you could locate that camera anywhere in the world and you couldn't get the geolocator out without ripping the camera and basically rendering it unusable. I think you would need to do a little bit of work with security meaning that other people can't find out where you are with the camera. But I think that's definitely solvable, maybe with blockchain, maybe some other technology. If Apple is selling these things already and they're the size of a quarter, I don't see why they can't be in a $20,000 camera. I would love to have Super 65 sized sensors in cameras. You could use one lens and just crop in on the sensor. So you could use, say, a 24 or 35mm lens, which on a Super 65mm sensor is huge. It's really, really wide, almost as wide as you could ever want to go. Then you could crop into the equivalent of a 50, equivalent of 75, equivalent of 100. And with one really high quality lens, you could shoot a whole film, any shot you need, and you wouldn't need to keep changing lenses and worry about the parfocal elements of a zoom, worry about the weight of a zoom. You can do that all with sensor crop if your sensor is large enough. Yes, that would be very expensive right now, but as the cost of sensors come down, I think that's totally doable. I'd also like to hear what other people are thinking, so feel free to comment. If you're interested in the current version of cameras, I have a website called Canon Masterclass where I go through in detail how to use Canon cinema cameras, how to light, how to produce, how I made my feature film. So check that out in the link. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.